All right, so we've allowed our users to share their notes with other users by email. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to see how to unshare a note with a user by clicking on this delete button. Now, currently this looks like it works, but it's not actually hooked up to the back end. So if we refresh, we'll see that that shows up. And actually, I just noticed something that we did wrong before. It looks like this email that we were testing this thing with before wasn't actually prevented from being added to this note. And the reason for that, if we go back to our share note route, is because we forgot the return keyword here. All right, so let's add that, and that should prevent that from happening in the future. Basically, what happened is we got this send status thing back, so our front end didn't update, but after that, it continued to update and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a dangerous thing to miss, as you can see, and we missed it here, but we fixed it now, so we should be able to get rid of it once we add the unshare functionality. So to unshare something, what we're going to do is create a new route, and this route is going to be called the unshare note route. And what we're going to do for this one, we're going to say export const unshare note route. It's going to have a similar path to our share note route, so we're going to say path slash notes slash note ID slash shared emails. But we're also going to add another section to this, which is going to be the email we want to unshare that with. Now, if we wanted to, we could have used a similar path for our share note route here and just said shared emails slash email, and that URL parameter there could be the email of the user that we want to share this with. And we would have just done that instead of putting the email in the request body. But there's not really any reason to choose one over the other besides just the conventions that I've seen. So what we're going to do here on our unshare note route, the method that we're going to use is going to actually be a delete method. So we're basically saying delete that email off of our note with this ID. And yeah, that's basically the signature for our route here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add the customary middleware. So we'll say middleware. We're going to have verify auth token and user owns note. We're obviously going to need those two because we want to make sure that users can't unshare a note with other users when the note doesn't belong to them. Okay? So here I just need to redo the double quotes to single notes again. I'm going to need to change that setting at some point. You're probably getting tired of seeing that. And now let's implement the handler for this route. So we're going to say handler async request response. And inside here, there's a few things we're going to need to do. The first thing we're going to need to do is get the note ID and the email from the request parameters. So for that, we'll say const note ID and email equals request.params. And then all we really need to do is call update one on the notes DB. So for that, we're going to say const and we'll say result because we're going to be using the find one and update method on MongoDB as we've done before. So we're going to say equals await notes DB. Okay, and that's going to be imported for us automatically up there. Notes DB.find one and update. And the filter for this one, we're going to want to find the note with that ID. So we'll say ID equals note ID. And the query we're going to use here is $pull, right? That's the opposite of push. And we're going to remove that email by saying shared with email, right? So that basically says remove this email from the shared with property of the note with this ID. Okay, and just like we saw before, we're going to have to add the return document after setting to this query by saying return document after. And that will make it so that we get the updated emails back from the server. So now we just need to say const updated emails. There we go, equals result dot value. And then we just need to say response.json and send those updated emails back to the client side. So there we go. And let's add this thing to our server officially by going into the routes index.js file. And we're going to add the unshare note route setting to this thing. And that should be all we need to do. So let's go into our front end now and add this functionality. We can just do that in one fell swoop because it's going to be very similar to what we saw in our shared note function. What we're going to do is just say try We're going to say set notes. We're going to be making one small change to that in a minute here, but we'll also say const updated emails equals await delete, right? Remember that this is a delete request here. We're going to say await delete, and we're going to send this request to notes/noteid / shared emails / email. All right, so that is our request there. And what's this complaining about? Ah, yes, we didn't call this delete, did we? We called this del. Delete is a reserved keyword in JavaScript, so we didn't use that as our function name. All right, so we have our updated emails now. The next thing that we're going to do is just set the shared with property to those updated emails inside our unshare note function here. So let's say shared with updated emails. And now we just need to add a catch block. And for now, this thing is just going to print out the errors that occurred. So we'll say console.log e. And that's pretty much all we need to do. So let's try unsharing this thing now by removing some of these emails from our note just to refresh and make sure we have the most up-to-date version. And let's also just check our server to make sure that we don't have any syntax errors. It looks like we did on our front end, but again, that was just when we only had the try block. So it looks like we should be good. Let's open up our application and try clicking this delete button on some of these, especially john@gmail.com we want to get rid of. So we're going to click on that. And it looks like emails.map is not a function. Oh, and the reason for this is in unshare note route, we need to say, instead of updated emails here, this is actually the updated note that we're getting back from find one and update. And then we just need to say response.json updated note dot emails. Okay, so there we go. Let's try this thing again. We should see that that email got removed because the error occurred after that. So let's try removing another one of these. And oops, it looks like that removed everybody. So wonder why that happened. Oh, jane@gmail.com is still there. So the faulty functionality is in our front end. Let's open up our notes provider. And it looks like we might be getting back the wrong updated emails from our back end. So let's just open this up here. Oh, duh, that's not emails, that's shared with. Whoops, okay, well, updated note.shared with, that should give us the right thing back. Just to test this, let's add jim@gmail.com back to our note. And let's click delete again. And sure enough, that should work just like we want it to. So perfect. We're able to share our note and unshare our note with other users of our application. So I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.